Greetings fans, hyperfans and people just lost looking for videos of cats on YouTube. Today we are going to be looking at Transformers Scorponok.
But probably not the one you're expecting.
Actually my friends, this is exactly the Scorponok that you've been expecting, because the last couple of videos that I have done have been me putting this guy together. And here he is in all his completed glory. I am so happy with him. Is it the most perfectly printed thing? No. Is it the most perfectly finished thing? Oh god no. But this is the Scorponok that I have made. This is my Scorponok. There may be many others like him, but this one is mine. Oh, he has been, as you may have seen, not the simplest of things to put together. But there is certainly something special about making something yourself. I mean, a new Transformer is always fantastic. Finding it on the shelves for the first time is amazing. But actually being able to put something together part by part, piece by piece, and end up with a Transformer has been a really amazing journey for me. So let's get into actually reviewing what this thing is like as a toy. First of all, it's a 3D created thing, so is it more brittle than any other Transformer? Yes and no. I mean, he has brittle pieces, especially sort of the very fine bits at the edge of his scorpion legs, the guns. Some of the joints are a little bit janky, but that's kind of like manufacturer's issues.
Well, technically, aren't you the manufacturer?
Yes, I am the manufacturer on this, so they are my issues. But what I mean is, they are things where the tolerances are probably too fine for my machine, and I have bodged around them. But I'm happy with how he has turned out. I've actually had him on my workbench next to, and this is going to be your first size comparison, Titan's Return Overlord. And actually looking at these two together, they're very similar. I mean, they are the same size, they are very similarly proportioned. Are they similarly detailed? I want to talk about this first. So Marcin, who is the guy who is Printformers, has done this absolutely excellent job creating a Marvel Comics Scorponok. It's a little bit less detailed than something that Hasbro are going to be gang casting, but you know, you still have sort of these vents in these little bits of detail around the claws. He has the very telltale designs on the legs, so the big and intermediate details absolutely spot on. But whereas if you look at a Hasbro Transformer, he's got all these details that could be picked up with panel lining and moulded in, mechanical stuff. Scorponok doesn't really have, I mean, there's a little bit of it on these panels. I think there was supposed to be a little bit more on the crotch plate, but in finishing it I have lost some details. So to a certain extent he looks plainer. But then there are all these interesting marks that actually come from the printing of him, which kind of mentally fill in that space. I mean, I have done my best to smooth this down. I mean, I have been sanding the legs down. I've been using resin on these lower legs. I have done practically everything that I can think of, but probably not as much as I could have. The race to actually put him together, because I wanted a toy in my hand, means that I may have not been the most diligent of workmen finishing it off. But in my eyes, he looks awesome. There's a few bits that I haven't done, and there's a few bits that I've done in addition to Marcin's designs, so when I get to those bits when I'm talking about him, I will highlight them. The first one, obviously, is the head. This is the Perfect Effects Scorponok head. It fits in very tightly because that has basically been drilled out and a little bit of rubber tubing added in and then just sealed around the outside with super glue. And head articulation is pretty damn cool actually, because it's molded plastic on this third party head rather than paint. That's not going to rub. Whilst we're talking about accessories, I will also talk about the weapon. I haven't done much to finish this off yet. I've done a little bit of cleverness with printing that orange filament and then swapping over to the grey. But the detail on this is really fantastic. He's got a very clever handle that fits really nicely into the grooves on the pincers. This was not available in the original STL kit that Printformers produced, but if you have access to the files, you have access to the updates. This is something that 3D printing gives you, which is, I mean, it's basically DLC. It's not like if you bought Overlord from Hasbro and somebody said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you came with that little cart thing that the G1 toy came with? That Hasbro would post it out to you. So again, big props to Marcin for carrying on with that. On his other arm, he has this mini Zarek shield. Now this is something that I produced myself. There is a larger, more detailed Zarek shield in the 2.0 pack, but because of some of the other changes that I've made to him, I wanted this in particular. I'll get into that when I do the transformation. Anything else big that I have done whilst making him? I have changed the way that the hands are designed, basically giving him a wrist swivel. You will see that in one of my previous videos. And the shoulders have this cool double-sided design, which means that I can print out additional guns and have them front and back. And he also has this really nice zigzag design running down the middle of the shoulders. Again, there you can really see the layer lines, but because he is sort of this insectine robot, it kind of works. Finishing him, I've mainly stuck to two paint colours. I got this really nice high gloss purple, and I found a very nice metallic green. These are not the colours, or at least not the shades that I printed him in. Those were actually sort of this purple and this green, but I thought that was way too bright. And this kind of reminds me a lot more of the G1 colours as I remember them. No, I didn't go back to a G1 toy to do colour comparisons. This was just how he looked in my head. Spot painting, I pretty much followed Marcin's guide by adding a little bit of blue and a little bit of orange. And the way that the model is designed, it's actually really easy to just fill in these little indents and you get really nice coverage. What I have done with this one, which was a little bit of an experiment, but I really like how it's turned out, is I actually used 2-part epoxy glue as a doming resin, which basically means that you pour the glue into the holes and you let it sit and go hard, and it gives you these very much sort of dual light bulb type details, and that looks really amazing. I did it on the blue on the legs, these parts on the claw and on the chest panel, and I also did it on each of the leg joints on the back, and that doesn't actually hinder the articulation at all, but again, it just adds a little bit more nice detail. The other thing that the Printformers design had, which hasn't been used yet, is right in the middle there should be a panel with the Decepticon logo on it. That can be turned around so it faces the right way, whether he's in a robot or scorpion mode, but my printer is not doing a fantastic job of churning that out. So I'm actually on the lookout at the moment for one of the Constructorbot logos, which are on 5mm pegs, because I think that's going to look really good in there, and again, just make it look far more like a finished product. So articulation wise, here's a really good action figure. I mean, the head articulation is on a ball joint, but then again, so is Marcin's original design. The arms are on a universal joint, but the way that I have stuck them doesn't have as much clearance as I want him to. This arm's a little bit better. It can go out about 45 degrees. It can turn forward and back a little bit, mainly hampered by the legs at the back. There is an upper arm swivel, which is quite tight on my print. He has a 90-degree bend at the elbow. I've added a wrist swivel, which is not standard. The claws open and are articulated on both sides, and the claw tips are individually articulated. He has a waist swivel, which is a little bit hindered by the tailpiece, which you have to move out of the way if you want to get any turn from that. That's mainly for transformation. He has quite a wide range of motion at the legs. With the skirt piece moved up, he's got maybe about 80-degree kick up, quite a far kick back, goes out to the side fine. There is an upper thigh swivel. He has a deep double knee because of transformation. And the feet are on ball joints, and they're nice chunky ball joints. Again, how tight those are depend on how tight you print them, but it does allow for some quite wide power poses. And remember, any weakness in joints is really down to me not having gone through and either tightened them up, and any tightness is me not going through and sanding them loose. That kind of fine detail in design really is down to you. Now, this would all be very impressive if he was just a print-at-home action figure, but he is a transformer, so I guess we now have to look at how he transforms. Okay, so first of all, taking the tail section and uncurling it, flipping it round at the waist. He has these very tight leg sections that can just fold up. And the feet clip very firmly into the ankles and slide up. And then that double knee lets you bend it all the way forwards. There are two little channels on the back for you to rest the lower legs into. There are these little notches in the tail that let you move it up and just holds everything together really nicely. I'm just going to push this section back for the moment and out the way. Pull out the whole shoulders, and it's designed so that you can turn the arms all the way round. Now, on the original design, that would now put the guns underneath, and you can turn that round to fit it better. I don't really need to do that anymore. I can just slide that back down. I'm going to pull the head off for now, and then adjust your cannons, your legs, your claws, however you want really. So now we have him almost into Scorpion mode, and if you had been printing from the original files, you would have left the head on, and that would count as your bug head. Whilst I personally would like to have the headmaster separate, so I can have him posed or piloting, that brings us to this brand new Zarek shield piece, which, if we just collapse the two halves down, we can plug into the same port and works as a really nice insect head. I haven't done any paint on this yet, so I may go in and tighten it up a little bit, but I'm really happy as it is. Does he have a base mode? I guess you could unfold him into one if you really wanted to, but I really don't think he needs it. He is very tightly held together in bug mode. I could probably tighten that up a little bit, but I'm doing this at arm's distance for review. Articulation is pretty much identical. You still have all the same turns in the arms. The detail that's underneath can be moved to the top, but I think I'm going to print out some more pieces to decorate there. The legs are all individually articulated, and they can just move backwards and forwards. There's no individual articulation of the legs because, to be honest, they're really spindly. but it's still holding the whole robot. You wouldn't want to play around with putting any more hinges in there. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a really decent Scorponok. Just the sculpt on it is incredible. I mean, you think that this is not a big toy company doing it. Yeah, it's just really impressive. Let me just get him back into robot mode and see how he compares to some official Hasbro Transformers. I've already shown you him compared to Leader Class Overlord. Same kind of height, same kind of width. Overlord's a little bit heavier because this is designed to be only 10% filled in, and that's a 3D print thing. But if you've got the time, the patience and the filament, you could print that to be a lot more solid. Let's bring in classic Starscream, who comes up just his crotch. The toy I am going to be displaying this with, the Kubiembao oversized Decepticon Headmasters. They scale really nicely with him, being Voyager size. Actually, you know what? Because not everybody has picked up a 15-year-old Starscream, let's also compare him to the Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. So it's all very good me talking about size comparisons, but he doesn't actually have to be this size. I have printed him out at the scale the files originally say, but there's nothing to say that you can't scale down all the parts to 60% and do a Legends size one. There's nothing to say that you can't scale the parts up and do something that's bigger than the War for Cybertron Scorponok. It's very much down to you. Again, it's the freedom that 3D printing gives you. And now we've seen it as a project, a robot, and a Scorpion, you've got to think of it as a product. Where do you get it? What do you actually get for your money? And considering that Hasbro have just released their own official version of Scorponok, is he still worth picking up? The files for this are still available on Etsy for about £45, and that might seem really expensive, especially considering that that's not £45 for a toy in a box. That's £45 for the digital information. And there is a bit of me that is the cheapskate that says that's kind of too much, especially considering that you've then got to pay for filaments. If you don't have a printer yourself, paying for print time. But as I've actually gone in and looked at the parts and the engineering and the fact that this is one guy doing this, it's really not that bad a deal. For a start, this is access to the files as they stand now and for any future updates. If all of a sudden he works out a better way of getting the legs to clip together, you've got access to those files. You can print a liner for the legs. You can print some more G1 style accessories. If they decide they want to do some adapters to give him a base mode, you'll have access to that. You also get two robots in the kit. You get Scorponok as we know him, but it also has all the additional part plans for printing out Black Zarak. So you could print out both robots, and then that's £20 per part. If you want to have a Chug version and you want to print out a smaller one as a desk bot at work, there's no extra cost for this. If I was to count up the cost of the filament of not just what you see in front of you, but also the failed prints, the ones that I wasn't 100% happy with, my experiments, etc., still probably only about £20 worth of filament. So you're still looking at half the price of the Titan class Scorponok. I mean, yes, he is still only a leader class. If you were going to print him out at Titan class, maybe about £40 worth of filament, but you would end up with a robot that was pretty much to your specifications and which you had seen go from a couple of cable spools to a fully transforming, articulated, coloured robot that you can put on your shelves and say, I made that. Is it an easy task to do? God no! If you've seen my last couple of videos, you've seen a small proportion of the problems that I have run into making him. Is it worth it? Hell yeah. I mean, I have to say that whilst Scorponok was not one of my ultimate favourite characters, this is probably going to be one of my favourite toys for a very long time. Thank you for joining me on this File to Finish journey. I may do a follow-up video if people have got questions they want to leave in the comments below. I have some more traditional toy reviews lined up now that Earthrise is starting to hit the shelves again. I may have some more 3D printing content if that's what you guys want to see, but let me know in the comments below. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and until next time, if you're keeping the mint in package, you're not a toy collector, you're a box collector.